And he said, "I'm memorizing." And I thought he wanted to memorize the place that we had lived.
It never really registered in my mind as something weird. It seemed like it was almost beyond my control.
I knew that kids sometimes did things that seemed a little bit odd. I wasn't concerned.
And once the family settles into the new house, Sammy seems thrilled to have an even bigger room than before.
We all just immediately loved the house. Sammy was very excited.
But underneath that smile is a child who is far from happy. In fact, a few days after moving in, Sammy begins to experience strange fears he's never felt before.
I was afraid to sleep in my bed.
He would not sleep in the bed in his room. And I said, "Sammy, I want you to sleep in your room." He became incredibly upset with me and ran out of the room. I came down in the morning, he was on the couch. Then I became much more insistent that he sleep in his room. The next night, when I went in to check on him, he was asleep, but sitting up in a chair.
The biggest problem was that she put a particular blanket on my bed, which I really didn't want to touch. There were little yellow stripes along the blanket, which really bothered me. I don't know why.
He really never slept in his bed from the day we moved in. It seemed odd. Why did I suddenly have this child who wouldn't sleep in his bed? I was worried. I didn't know what was wrong. I thought it was an emotional type of reason, so I called a psychologist to schedule an appointment.
I don't remember too much of what we actually discussed. I know we had thought the problems had to do with anxiety.
He was very protective of Sammy in terms of not telling me what Sammy would say, but he felt that he was having an extreme reaction to the fact that we had moved. I assumed that things were going to improve within a matter of a couple of weeks.
But just a few days later, Sammy suddenly develops a bizarre new obsession.
He insisted that we have all the lights on in the house 24 hours a day.
I couldn't stand the dark. I just remember that the dark was bad.
When it was time to go to bed, I went to shut the lights off, and then he turned the lights right back on. I turned them off again. And he totally flipped out and started screaming, but there was no reason for this. Suddenly, after having this wonderfully sweet boy for all these years, I had a defiant child on my hands. He was seeing the psychologist once a week. So I called him. The psychologist's advice was to just be very tolerant, and his suggestion was that we wait.
Desperate to get a handle on Sammy's rebellious behavior, Beth does her best to follow doctor's orders. But over the next 3 weeks, she grows increasingly frightened as Sammy's problems seem to snowball.
He was wound up, he was pacing all the time, he was constantly moving, wriggling, puffing, gasping for breath. Then he was pelting repairmen with acorns. Then he was screaming at the squirrels. Every single day there was a new behavior that was added. I said to the psychologist, shouldn't we be